The morning was cold and clear in the Pacific Northwest. Pine trees stretched up toward a sky, and a light mist hung over the forest near Haven Falls, Washington. Tom Harper had been working as a park ranger for 12 years. He knew these woods like the back of his hand. He walked the same trails every day, checking for damage and making sure the forest stayed safe. On this morning, he heard something that made him stop walking. It was not a sound he recognized. It started as a low rumble, then became louder. Tom looked up. Through the trees, he saw something moving in the sky. A massive shape fell through the clouds, burning as it came down. It was enormous, longer than anything Tom had ever seen. The sky lit up with orange and red fire. Tom ran toward the sound. He had to call this in. The object hit the forest about 2 miles away. The ground shook. Trees fell down like sticks. Smoke rose up into the air. Tom pulled out his radio with shaking hands. He called his supervisor. His voice was calm, but his heart was racing. He reported the crash. Within minutes, emergency alerts went out to every police station and military base in the region. Captain received the call at the Pacific Defense Station, 30 miles south. He was drinking coffee in the operations center when the alert came through. Had been in the military for 20 years. He had seen combat in 3 different countries, but he had never dealt with anything like this. The massive ship that had crashed was not from Earth. It was clear from the shape and the way it had come down from space, moved into action. He ordered all military units in the region to stand by. He told them to set up a perimeter around the crash site. No one was to go in. No one was to let anyone out. This was a security issue now. This was an invasion, or at least that was what thought at first. Within 2 hours was at the crash site. Military vehicles had blocked all the roads. Soldiers in full gear stood at every position. A command tent had been set up, looked at the ship. It was the size of 3 football fields. One side had been ripped open by the crash. Smoke still came from the damage. It was completely unlike any technology humans had ever made. Dr. Griffin arrived from the capital by helicopter. She was a linguist and expert in communication. The government sent her when they heard about the crash. She was smart and calm, even when things were scary. Had studied many languages. She had talked to people from all over the world, but she had never talked to anyone from space. And stood together looking at the ship, said nothing for a long time. Finally, she spoke. She said that the ship had crashed, not landed. This was not an invasion. The ship was damaged. Something had gone wrong. As they watched, a door opened on the side of the ship. Both and moved back. Soldiers raised their guns. Everyone was ready for a fight, but what came out was not a weapon. It was a person, or something like a person. The being that walked out was tall and thin. Its skin was blue, like the color of storm clouds. It had large eyes that blinked slowly. It looked confused and hurt. More beings came out behind it. They were all the same species. Some of them were small, children maybe. Some were very old and moved slowly. Many of them were injured. They had cuts and burns from the crash. The first being saw the soldiers and the guns. It made a sound, a high noise that hurt to listen to. Other beings heard the sound and moved back toward the ship. They were afraid. They were not attacking. They were running away from the guns. Saw what was happening. These creatures were not invaders. They were refugees. They were scared and hurt, just like humans would be after a crash, made a decision. He lowered his hand and the soldiers lowered their guns. It was a small movement, but it changed everything. Moved forward very slowly. She kept her hands open so the beings could see she had no weapons. The tall blue being watched her. Made a gentle sound, not words, just a sound that said she meant no harm. The being made a sound back. It was not a weapon. It was a response. Began to use hand signals. She pointed to the injured being. Then she pointed to herself and pointed down, a direction that meant medical help. The being seemed to understand. It made sounds to the others. Slowly, the beings from the ship began to come out again. They were still afraid, but they were coming. Over the next hour, more of the beings came out of the ship. There were hundreds of them, then thousands. They all looked the same, tall and thin with blue skin, realized the truth. This was not a military force. This was a population. Children, elderly families. They had nothing to do with an invasion. They were running from something. They were hiding in a ship that had crashed on Earth by mistake. A military officer came to and said they should put all the beings into containment. They should treat them like prisoners, but said no. These were not soldiers. They were people even if they did not look like humans. They were hurt. They needed help. Kept working with the beings, trying to learn their language, trying to understand where they came from and why they were here. The beings responded to her. They seemed to understand that she wanted to help. They began to teach her their words. Slowly, a bridge of understanding was being built. By evening, had ordered the creation of a temporary camp about 5 miles from the crash site. Medical tents were set up. Food stations were prepared. Water was brought in. The beings from the ship were brought to the camp under guard, but not as prisoners. They were brought as refugees in need of help. As the sun went down, stood at the edge of the camp and watched. The beings 3 days after the crash, the news had spread around the world. Every news channel was showing pictures of the alien ship. Every government was asking the same questions. Where did they come from? Were they dangerous? What should be done with them? The answers were not simple. Was not sleeping. He was working 16 hours a day at the camp. He had converted a large warehouse into a medical center. Doctors and nurses had come from the nearest hospitals. They did not know how to treat the beings from space, but they tried. They used basic human medicine. They helped with injuries. They gave food and water. Griffin was making progress with the language. She had identified a being named Vex. He was younger than most of the others, and he seemed to understand humans more easily. Vex had worked on his people's ship as a navigator. He knew about many worlds and many languages. He was learning English quickly. Through Vex, learned the truth about why the beings had crashed on Earth. Their name was, they came from a planet called Far from the Sun. For many years had been at peace. Their society did not have wars. They did not have weapons. They had families and farms and cities. They were gentle people. But 5 years ago, an empire called the Syndicate had come to their planet. The Syndicate was not like they were warriors. They wanted to control and take its resources. They wanted to use them as workers and soldiers. When they refused, the Syndicate began to destroy their cities. They killed many. Families were separated. Children were taken from their parents. The who survived began to run. They built a ship large enough to carry their entire population. 3,000 packed into that ship. They had children and elderly people. They had no weapons. They just wanted to escape and find a safe place to live. They had been flying for 6 months, looking for a world that would accept them. But something went wrong with their navigation system. It sent them toward the wrong star. They crashed on Earth by mistake. They had wanted to reach a planet in a different system. Instead, they found themselves on a strange world with strange people who looked nothing like them. When told this story, his first feeling was doubt. He had been trained to think that anyone from space might be lying. But when he looked at the children in the camp, he saw something that changed his mind. He saw fear. He saw hunger. He saw people running from something worse than anything could imagine. Made a decision that would cause him great trouble. He asked for medical supplies from the nearby hospital. He asked for food from local farmers. He asked for clothing and blankets from the townspeople of Haven Falls. Most people said yes. They wanted to help. Word had spread about the people in the town understood that these were refugees, not invaders. One farmer named Robert came to the camp with a truck full of vegetables. He had been a farmer for 40 years. He had seen hard times before. He knew what it meant to be hungry. He donated vegetables every day after that. Other farmers came. Merchants came. Teachers came. Slowly, the people of Haven Falls decided to help. But not everyone was happy about this. Admiral Hayes called and told him to stop. The government wanted to contain they wanted to put them in a secure location like a prison. They wanted to study them and decide what to do. They did not want civilians helping. Refused, he told the admiral that they were not soldiers, they were families. They were dying without help. The admiral said was breaking orders. He said could face a court-martial, but did not change his mind. He continued to help There was a moment that changed everything. A young girl about 6 years old became very sick. Her name was, she had an infection from a cut she got during the crash. Her fever was very high. The camp medical tent did not have the right medicine. She was getting weaker every day. Heard about this. He made a call to doctor at the nearest hospital. He brought to the hospital himself without permission. The hospital was shocked when a blue alien child arrived in an ambulance, but doctor did not turn her away. She was a doctor. She had taken an oath to help people who were sick. She saw as a patient who needed care. For 3 days stayed in the hospital. Doctor gave her medicine. Nurses stayed with her. Slowly, her fever came down. She began to eat. She began to smile. After 5 days, she was well enough to return to the camp. When came back, the others celebrated. They made sounds of joy. An elderly named came to, was the leader of the people. She was wise and calm. She took his hand and held it for a long time. She said words that Vex translated, said that they would never forget what and the humans of Haven Falls had done. As the days passed, something strange began to happen. the humans and began to understand each other. Children from the town came to the camp. They brought toys for the young. The children played with human children. There were no words at first, just games, but the games became a language. They became a bridge between two worlds. Was recording everything. She was writing down words. She was learning their sounds. She was understanding their culture. She discovered that they had no weapons at all. They did not hunt animals. They grew plants and fruits. They had art and music. They told stories to their children just like humans did. But the outside world was not happy. News reports showed that the United Nations was meeting to decide what to do with the. Some countries wanted to keep them. Some countries wanted to send them away. Some countries wanted to use them as leverage in negotiations with other planets. Governments were beginning to see the not as people, but as resources. The government told to prepare for movement. They would be moved to a secure facility far away. The local people would no longer be allowed to help. Military would take over completely, was ordered to prepare for this. He was given 3 days. Looked at the camp. He saw the children playing. He saw the elderly. The meeting room at the United Nations was full of people. Flags from every country hung on the walls. Government leaders and military officers sat at a long table. They were arguing about the. Senator Cooper from the United States was the loudest voice. She said that they were a threat. She said that humanity did not know what they were capable of. She said that keeping them on Earth was dangerous. She demanded that they be removed immediately. Dr. Henry was a scientist who studied other forms of life. He had been brought to the meeting to give information. He had seen the research that Griffin had done. He had studied the biology. He stood up and said that they were not a threat. They had no weapons. They had no ability to fight. They were a peaceful species that had been running from violence for years. He said that humanity had a moral responsibility to help them. Senator Cooper did not listen to him. She said that they were aliens. They could not be trusted. She said that if they stayed on Earth, other planets might attack Earth to get them. She said that the world would be safer if they were gone. Her words were powerful. Many other leaders agreed with her. But some countries disagreed. Canada, Norway, and Australia said that they would shelter the if needed. They said that all people deserved protection from violence. They said that they had done nothing wrong. The meeting went on for hours with no decision. In the camp near Haven Falls was receiving pressure from the government. He was told to prepare them for transport. He was told that soldiers would come in 3 days to take them away. He was told that if he did not cooperate, he would be arrested. The government was serious. They were sending a legal order. Called a meeting with Robert, Doctor, and he told them what was happening. He said that the government was coming to take the away. He said that they needed to find another way. He said that he could not follow this order. Said that she had finished her research. She had written a complete report about the culture and biology. She said that she wanted to publish it. She said that if people around the world knew the truth about they might not want them to be taken away. That night sent her report to news organizations around the world. She wrote about everything she had learned. She wrote about how there were farmers and artists. She wrote about their children and elderly. She wrote about their escape from the syndicate. She wrote about how they had shown no violence to humans. She said that there were people who deserved to live. The report spread through the news media. Television channels showed the research. Newspapers published the facts. Within 1 day, the whole world was talking about what had written. Public opinion began to change. People in many countries began to support they said that their governments should let them stay. But Senator Cooper was still fighting. She gave speeches saying that was being fooled. She said that they were manipulating humans with their appearance. She said that trusting them was the biggest mistake humanity could make. She pushed harder for them to be removed. Meanwhile, told something that changed everything. They had received a message. They were receiving radio signals from space. The syndicate had found them. The empire that had destroyed their planet was coming to Earth. They would arrive in 2 weeks, and they wanted the back, or they would attack Earth. When heard this, he felt sick. The situation had become much worse. They were not just refugees anymore. They were a threat to Earth, not because they wanted to be, but because the syndicate wanted them. If Earth helped the syndicate would come. If Earth did not help them, then they would be captured or killed. This was what Senator Cooper had been afraid of. This was what she had predicted. If humans helped the planet would be in danger. The question was now impossible to answer. Should Earth protect people who needed help, even if it meant risking everything? Or should Earth turn them away to stay safe? Met with Admiral Hayes again. This time, the Admiral was different. He was scared. He said that the military was preparing for war. If the syndicate came, Earth would have to fight. He said that it made a big mistake by helping He said that Earth was not ready for a galactic war. But said something that surprised the Admiral. Said that humanity was never ready for what was right. He said that the question was not about being ready. The question was about who humanity wanted to be. Did they want to be a species that turned away refugees, or did they want to be a species that protected the weak? The Admiral did not answer, but he did not order arrested. Instead, he told to prepare the camp for possible attack. He told him to help the prepare. And he told that whatever happened next, the decision would be made in the United Nations, not by the military. Back in New York, the debate continued. Senator Cooper demanded that the BREM Senator Cooper gave her final speech at the United Nations. She said that the government had given them a deadline. They had 48 hours to leave Earth or be removed by force. She said that this was the only way to protect humanity. She said that if they did not leave, soldiers would come to take them away. When the people of Haven Falls heard this news, they became angry. They did not agree with the senator. They had seen they had helped them. They knew that they were not evil. They knew that sending them away meant sending them to die. Robert the farmer called a meeting in the town. Hundreds of people came. They discussed what to do. A young woman named Sarah stood up and said that they should all go to the camp. She said that they should block the roads. She said that if the government wanted to remove they would have to move through the town first. Within hours, thousands of people gathered at the camp. They came from Haven Falls and other nearby towns. They came with supplies. They came with their families. They came with signs that said, "Protect thee and humanity means compassion." They formed a human wall around the camp. They said that they would not move. Police came to the camp. They told the people to leave. The people refused. The police called for reinforcements, but then something unexpected happened. The soldiers who were sent to enforce the order did not want to hurt the people. They did not want to attack civilians who were trying to help refugees. A young army officer named David pulled off his helmet and told his commander that he would not attack innocent people. Other officers said the same thing. Enlisted soldiers put down their guns. They refused the order. They said that if the government wanted to remove the government would have to do it without them. This happened at military bases across the region. Soldiers refused to follow orders. They said that they had joined the military to protect people, not to hurt them. They said that helping refugees was the right thing to do. Officers tried to force them to obey, but there were too many. The military was breaking apart. The story spread around the world. Videos showed soldiers laying down their weapons. Videos showed thousands of people protecting The images were powerful. People in other countries began to demand that their own governments help the two. But then everything changed. 3 massive ships appeared in the sky above Earth. They moved silently through space and stopped in orbit. They were syndicate ships. The Empire had come. A signal was sent to Earth. A voice spoke in a language that could translate. It was the commander of the syndicate fleet. He said that he was general. He said that they belonged to the syndicate. He said that Earth had one day to hand them over or face destruction. He said that the syndicate had weapons that could destroy entire cities. He said that humans should not try to protect creatures that were not their responsibility. Fear filled the world. Every government was now afraid. The military took over. Civilians were told to go inside and lock their doors. Soldiers were positioned in every city. The world was preparing for war. Received a call from the Pentagon. He was told that Earth's defense systems were being activated. Weapons that humans had never used before were being prepared. Nuclear weapons, laser weapons, and technology that had been kept secret for years. If the syndicate attacked, Earth would fight back. Sat in his office and thought about what this meant. He had wanted to help he had not wanted to start a war. But his choice, the choice to help refugees, had led to this moment. Earth was about to go to war with an alien empire. Came to, she was pale and tired. She said that she had been trying to communicate with General. She said that she had told him that Earth would not hand over She said that had been surprised. He had not expected humans to be willing to fight. General sent another message. This time he was speaking to directly. Somehow he knew who was. He said that he had studied humans. He said that humans were supposed to be selfish and weak. He said that humans were supposed to care only about themselves. He said that he did not understand why would risk the lives of billions of humans to protect a few thousand that humans had just met. Recorded a message back. He said that they had come to Earth as refugees. They were not soldiers or invaders. They were families that had lost their homes. He said that humanity had a choice. They could be a species that turned away the weak, or they could be a species that protected them. Said that if the Syndicate attacked, Earth would defend itself. He said that Earth had weapons too. He said that humans were willing to die to protect what was right. He said that generals should think very carefully about attacking a planet where the people would rather die than betray people they had taken responsibility for. The message was sent, received it. For 6 hours there was silence, was communicating with the Syndicate leadership. They were discussing what to do. Could they afford a war with Earth? Did they really need that much? Was the prize worth the cost of fighting a new enemy? Meanwhile, on Earth, every nation had united. For the first time in human history, all the countries of the world were working together. They were not fighting each other anymore. They were united against an outside threat. Soldiers from America, China, Russia, and every other country were standing together. They had never done this before. Earth's weapons systems were activated. Satellites with laser technology pointed towards space. Missiles were ready to launch. Anti-aircraft defenses were online. Every major city was protected. Humans had not been ready for this, but humans had adapted quickly. Humans had united against a threat. And humans had done it not to save themselves, but to save people who were not even human. After 12 hours of silence, General sent another message. He said that the Syndicate had decided to withdraw. He said that the Syndicate would not attack Earth. He said that he had underestimated human courage. He said that he had not expected a species to stand together for strangers. He said that this was something new. This was something the galaxy had not seen before. But also said something else. He said that the Syndicate would seal off the region of space around Earth. They could not leave. If they tried to escape, they would be destroyed, so they would have to stay on Earth. Earth would have to shelter them forever. Looked at this message and understood what was really happening. The Syndicate had not backed down because of fear. They had backed down because they had realized something. They had realized that humans had changed them. They had realized that one of its officers, a young commander named Vale, had asked for permission to stay on Earth instead of returning to the Syndicate. She said that she wanted to see a world where beings from different species could live together. The Syndicate had been shocked. They had refused, but it showed that humans had done something incredible. They had shown the galaxy what was possible. They had shown that compassion was stronger than weapons. They had shown that a species could stand together for strangers. The 3 Syndicate ships moved away from Earth. They took up positions at the edge of space, watching but not attacking. The war that had seemed so certain just hours before would not happen. Earth was safe, and they could stay. But Earth had changed. The world was no longer divided. The people had united. The soldiers had stood 1 year after the crash. Haven Falls had changed completely. A new city was being built near the town. It was not a human city and not a city. It was something new. It was a place where 2 species lived together. Walked through the streets of the new city. He was no longer in the military. He had resigned after the crisis was over. He was now the head of the Joint Earth Committee. It was a new organization created to manage the relationship between humans and... The city had homes for both species. Homes were built with open courtyards where they could gather. Human homes had private spaces. The streets were wide enough for both humans and to walk together. There were schools where children of both species learned together. There was a market where farmers sold vegetables and humans sold goods. Griffin was working on a translation project. She was creating a complete dictionary of the language. She had learned so much from Vex that they had become friends. They worked every day together, learning from each other. Vex was teaching about history and art, was teaching Vex about human culture. They were building a bridge of understanding between the worlds. Doctor had opened a new hospital in the city. The hospital treated both humans and doctors from both species worked together. They learned from each other how to treat different kinds of illnesses. They discovered that some human medicines worked on. They learned that healing techniques could help humans too. Robert the farmer had worked with farmers to create new farms. They grew both human crops and crops. They shared their knowledge about farming. They worked side by side in the fields. The farms produced more food than either species could have produced alone. The leader of the had become close too. They had formed a deep respect for each other. They worked together every day to solve problems and make decisions. Said that had showed her that humans could choose to be good. Said that had showed him that aliens could be honorable and wise. One afternoon, invited to visit a gathering. They sat under the sky with hundreds of other, stood up and spoke to everyone. She said that 1 year ago her people had crashed on a strange world. She said that they were afraid and alone, but she said that humans had chosen to help them. Said that it made a choice that changed the course of history. She said that his choice to see thee as people, not threats, had saved 3,000 lives. She said that because of this choice, the now had a home. She said that because of this choice, 2 worlds had come together. The made sounds of agreement. Young, the girl who had been sick and saved by doctor, sat beside, was healthy and happy now. She was learning to speak human languages. She had human friends. She had a future. But there was more to the story. News had begun to come from other parts of the galaxy. Other species had heard what happened on Earth. They had heard that humans had sheltered the. They had heard that humans and now lived together. They had heard that a new world had opened its doors to refugees. Ships began to arrive, not syndicate ships, ships from other species that had also been running from violence and war. A species called the Came First. They were small and quiet, and they had been running from a disease that the syndicate was using as a weapon. Earth gave them shelter, humans, and helped them. Then came the tall beings made of something like stone. They had lost their planet to an expanding star. Earth gave them a place to build new homes. Then came others. Each species brought its own culture and knowledge. Haven Falls became a city of wonders. It became a place where many species lived together. Children of different species played together. Parents of different species worked together. They learned from each other. They shared food. They shared art and music and stories. But not everyone on Earth was happy about this. Some humans were afraid of so many aliens on their world. Some wanted to close the doors and refuse shelter to more refugees. There were protests and arguments. Some people said that it made a mistake. Some said that helping refugees was destroying Earth's culture. But the majority of humans had learned something. They had learned that different does not mean dangerous. They had learned that compassion was possible, even for strangers. They had learned that helping others could make Earth stronger, not weaker. Stood in the plaza of the new city one evening. He watched as humans and walked together. He watched as children played with human children. He watched as taught a group of humans about stone working. He felt something that he had not felt before. He felt hope. A young soldier came too. The soldier was from the military that had refused to attack the camp. The soldier said that he had resigned from the military too. He said that he wanted to help build the new world that had started. He said that he wanted to work in education, teaching young people about peace and understanding. Many soldiers had made this choice. They had left the military. They had joined organizations that helped refugees. They had decided that protecting the weak was more important than building weapons. The military had become smaller, but the spirit of humanity had become bigger. Came to with news. She said that she had received a message from General Vale, the syndicate officer who had asked to stay on Earth. Vale had escaped her ship and was hiding. She wanted to come to Earth. She wanted to live in the new world. She said that watching humans help the had changed her. She said that she did not want to be a syndicate warrior anymore. She wanted to build something new. Knew that bringing Vale to Earth would be complicated. It would make the syndicate angry. It would create more conflict. But also knew that offering shelter to someone who was changing their mind was the right thing to do. Said yes. He said that Vale would be welcome. He said that Earth was a place where anyone could choose a different path. He said that if a syndicate officer could see the value of compassion, then hope was real. As the sun set over Haven Falls, looked at the city of 2 worlds, he thought about how one decision to help refugees had changed everything. He thought about how compassion had been stronger than weapons. He thought about how humanity's greatest power was not in its technology or its military strength. Humanity's greatest power was in its ability to choose to be good. Children ran through the plaza playing games that belonged to no single world. They laughed together. They spoke languages that mixed human words with sounds. They were the future. They did not see differences. They saw friends. An elderly approached. It was an elder named, had been a leader among the before the crash. Said that he wanted to thank one more time. Said that they would remember what had done. Said that it shown them that the galaxy was not all darkness. Said that there were good beings out there and humans were among them. Shook the old's hand. He could not find the right words to say. He was not a hero. He was just a soldier who had decided to help. He was just a person who had refused to follow an order that seemed wrong. He was just someone who had trusted his conscience when everything else told him to be afraid. But that choice had created ripples. That one choice had led to a world where humans and lived together. It had led to a world where other refugees could find hope. It had led to a world that was becoming something new. It was becoming a world where compassion mattered more than power. The night fell on Haven Falls. Lights came on in homes of many different kinds. Humans and all the other species settled down for the night. They were safe. They were home. They were together. In a small office, sat at his desk and wrote a message to the Syndicate. The message was simple. It said that the Syndicate had once thought that the galaxy could only be ruled by those with the strongest weapons. But the Syndicate was wrong. The galaxy could be ruled by those with the strongest hearts. The message said that Earth was open to anyone who wanted to choose peace. The message said that refugees were welcome here. The message said that Earth had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not in what it could destroy, but in what it could build together. The message was sent out to the stars. It traveled through space. Ships that were running from violence heard it. Species that were hiding heard it. They began to change their course. They began to move toward Earth. They began to believe that there was a place where they could be safe. And on Earth, humans looked up at the stars and saw something they had never seen before. They saw hope. They saw a future where worlds could come together. They saw a future where compassion was stronger than fear. Looked out at the city of Haven Falls, now a beacon of light in the darkness. He thought about how it had all started with one crash and one person who chose to help. He thought about how one moment of courage could change everything. The story was not over. It was just beginning. The Syndicate was still out there. Other dangers would come. But the people of Earth and the refugees who had chosen to call Earth home would face those dangers together. They would face them as one world. They would face them with compassion and courage. They would face them knowing that humanity's greatest power was the ability to choose kindness. Her and the message had been sent to the galaxy. Earth was a world where refugees were protected. Earth was a world where the weak were defended. Earth was a world that humanity had chosen to become. From Earth before the Syndicate arrived, other leaders argued that Earth had a chance to show the galaxy that humanity was different. They said that Earth could be a place of hope, not fear. Asked to speak to the United Nations, the leaders agreed, came to the meeting through a video connection from the camp. She stood in front of the camera and spoke. Vex translated her words into English, said that she understood the fear. She said that the Syndicate was dangerous. She said that she would never want to put humans in danger. Made an offer. She said that they would leave Earth if humans could give them supplies and a map to a safe place. She said that they did not want to stay where they were not wanted. She said that they just wanted to find a world where they could live in peace. She said that she was sorry that their crash had brought trouble to Earth. The leaders listened too. Many of them were moved by her words, but there was a problem. Ship was destroyed. They could not repair it in time, and without a map from humans, they did not know where to go. If they left in an unprepared ship, they would crash again. They would all die. So the question came back to the same place. Humans had to choose. Would they risk war with the Syndicate, or would they turn the away and watch them die? There was no easy answer. There was no choice that did not come with risk. There was no choice that would keep everyone safe. Waited for the decision. He did not know what would happen next. He did not know if he would be arrested. He did not know if Earth would go to war. He did not know if they would survive. All he knew was that he had made a choice to help, and he would stand by that choice, no matter what came next. The world waited. The decision was coming, and it would change everything. Eyes sitting together in the evening sun. He saw the connections that had been made between humans, and he knew that if he moved them away, all of this would be destroyed. Fear would take over again. The bridge of understanding they had built would collapse. That night sat in his office and made a choice. He would not follow the order. He would find another way. He did not know what would happen to him, but he knew what was right, had trusted him. The children had trusted him. He would not betray that trust. He called Robert the farmer. He called Doctor. He began to make a plan. He did not know if it would work. He did not know if he would be arrested. But he knew that sometimes a person had to stand against the government and say no. Sometimes a person had to protect the weak and the scared. The question was whether other people would stand with him. From space were sitting together, holding each other, looking at the strange new world they had crashed into. They had come to Earth by accident, running from something terrible. They did not know if they would live or die. They did not know if these humans would help them or hurt them. Did not know it yet, But his next decision would change the course of human history. His choice to see these beings as people instead of threats would create a friendship between two worlds. It would show humanity something about itself that had been hidden. But for now, in the cold evening air of the Pacific Northwest, both humans and the beings from space just waited, uncertain of what would come next. The night fell and the two species began a journey together that neither of them could have predicted. In the darkness, hope was small and fragile, but it was there.